and today I want to talk about a topic very near and dear to both of our hearts, and perhaps to many of the people watching. I'm going to play a sound, and tell me what it means to you. Now for some of the viewers, that sound may mean absolutely nothing. For others, it may trigger memories you haven't thought about in years. And for, well, I doubt anyone but you, Nate, it may cause you to shout, "For the Republic!" Now for those of you who are confused, that was the intro to the hit show, Star Wars: The Clone Wars. You know, one of those wars mentioned in the whole Star Wars part. Now this show holds a very special place in both of our hearts. Now, we've loved Star Wars ever since we first saw the original movie in 1977. What? You don't know how old we are? Look, if you don't believe me, here's a picture of us on opening day. Now you may be wondering how we're wearing Star Wars merch if the movie just came out. Anyway, Nate and I have loved Star Wars for a very long time, but our favorite thing in all of the Star Wars universe is the Clone Wars. Now before I continue, I want to provide the disclaimer that Nate, yes, you do know more about Star Wars than I do, and Clone Wars as a whole. I know you'll get mad at me if I don't say that, so here. But we do both love this series very much. We've watched our favorite story arcs perhaps dozens of times, cried our favorite characters dying, considered buying super expensive Clone Wars armor, realizing we don't have any money and it's way too expensive, considered saving up for them, realizing it's a bad idea, and then getting them anyway. You know, Nate, you're not here. I could touch the helmet if I wanted to. Perhaps just for a moment. I didn't actually touch your helmet. I realized I wanted to survive until next week, and touching the helmet would be a great way to do that. But all jokes aside, I truly believe this show to be one of the best TV shows of all time. And I think many more people would agree with me if it wasn't animated. The show has amazing character arcs, especially with relationships between characters like the one with Anakin and Ahsoka. Also, almost all the people who have seen Clone Wars have probably seen Revenge of the Sith, which takes place right after and during the Clone Wars. And the foreshadowing to Order 66 and the massacring of the Jedi, many of whom were characters in the actual show, is just incredible. And the characters themselves are also amazing. Looking at the show at face value, you'd probably think the most interesting characters would be Anakin Skywalker or Obi-Wan Kenobi, characters I'm sure we're all familiar with. But I believe the true best characters are the clones themselves. For the most part, they all look and sound the same, but they're actually nuanced people with their own individual personalities. I'm not kidding when I say, Nate, I wouldn't be surprised if you named your first child 5. But on top of all of this amazing stuff, the animation is just incredible, and the voice acting is so good that when I think of Anakin's voice, I think of Matt Lanter, the voice of him in the show. And that's not a knock on Hayden Christensen, I think he's amazing, but in terms of just sheer volume of content, there's way more in the show than just in the few movies we had with Hayden Christensen. Now I know I'm not really going into specifics, and that's for 2 reasons. For one, there are better people and better creators to explain why Clone Wars is amazing. And second, if you, the viewer, have not seen Clone Wars or haven't seen it in a long time, I want to urge you to watch it. The episodes aren't really in a particular order at the start, but I would definitely recommend starting with what I think is Season 1, Episode 5, Rookies. It's an amazing introduction to the Clone Wars, and especially some very important clones, and it's only about a half hour. There's a prequel and sequel to it later on, but just like with Star Wars, most people should start with the original. Now at the time of recording, which is Wednesday night, Nate, you haven't uploaded your video yet. However, you did tell me what your question of the week is going to be, so I'm going to answer it here. You asked, what singular item from any fictional universe, within reason, would I like to have in real life for everyday use? So immediately my mind went to the portal gun, which if you don't know, allows you to shoot a portal and then shoot another one, and then you can walk through between the two. But then I wondered, how useful would this really be? I mean, it'd really only be useful if I'm being chased or something, and that only happens about once a month, so I don't really think it's worth it. My mind next went to pretty much any droid from Star Wars, but then I realized droids aren't items. They have rights. Can I get a hashtag droids rights in the comments? That feels so stupid, I'm sorry. But then I thought of what truly matters. Not a cool item or anything. Money. Which is why I'll be choosing a lightsaber. Think of how much money people would pay to hold it, or even see it. That thing would be my ticket to success. People of all generations would love to see in Star Wars or not. You all know what a lightsaber is. Heck, it might even land me a cameo in the next Disney Plus Star Wars series. So Nate, my question of the week for you is, if you could get transport to any fictional universe, what would it be? Now you've told me in the past you wouldn't do Star Wars, give it, the second word in its name, so I'm wondering what you would pick. Nate, I'll see you on Monday. Hopefully.